Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 12th Wiseburg Unified School District Board meeting. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:03 p.m. Wendy, do we have any public comments on closed items?
I do not have any public comments.
Fantastic. Seeing none, we will now break the closed session and we will reconvene for opening public session at 6:00 p.m. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Good evening to Dr. Goldman and those who are joining us online tonight. This is the September 12th Wiseburg Unified School District Board meeting, and I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:07 p.m. We have a special presentation. I see Don Harris in the audience here from the Kiwanis Club. That'll be forthcoming, and we have a few other presentations that I think Blake will introduce at the appropriate time. And with that, Wendy, would you please take roll?
Sure. Ms. Cappy,
Present.
Ms. Legaspi. Present. Mr. Martinez,
Present.
Dr. Goldman.
Present, if you can hear
I
me.
hear you. I
can't.
see you.
Unfortunately, can't
And
hear.
Mr. Van Willis is absent.
Yes.
We can't hear.
Tony, are we gonna be able to fix this, you think?
Bill, can we get a thumbs up? He's present. Wendy, before we proceed with the special presentation, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, thank you. All right, Blake.
Okay, wanna introduce Don Harris, reached out to me and from the Kiwanis Club here. And he's gonna present us with some AEDs. I don't wanna take your thunder, Don, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you just come on up here and share with us what you have for us today.
Well, I'm gonna bring the president of our Kiwanis Club, along with me, Mo Awadallah, and Mr. Dick Hune, who is one of our senior members in the club. We call him the Godfather. So,
Well, welcome.
thank you so much. If I face you guys or this way?
Microphones of
Oh,
people on Zoom.
Yeah,
can
okay.
hear
So
you.
they can hear you.
Very good.
It's on.
This is
There you go.
Mo Awadallah. He is our president of the Kiwanis Club. And he will make this presentation.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mo Awadallah, president of the Kiwanis Club in Hawthorne. If you're not familiar with the AEDs, the past president, Joel Verch, came up with an idea with the board members of, hey, let's have a campaign to raise money for AEDs. So believe it or not, we were successful and it happened fast. So we raised a little over, I think, 16,000, and we gave 4 to HMSA, 4 to Lusinger High School, 4 to Hawthorne High School, and Lawndale High School. And they were very happy, and I hope no one has to ever use this, but just in case, each high school has 4, so it kind of, helps in case there's any games, or God forbid if anything happens, they have 4. So we said, hey, well, Wiseburg School District, it's in our backyard too, so we were successful enough to have 2 donated, and we had what's his name?
Doug?
Yeah, sorry, Doug Herbst purchased one, and I purchased one. And the cool thing about these is anyone that will buy one or purchase one will have, right here, will say, this life-saving device was donated by Mo and Lalia Awadallah, which the reason why I put my daughter, because she's the first baby girl in the family. So we don't have no girls except her. So I said, just in case, because I live in Hawthorne, if she ever comes to Wiseburg School District, hey, here, so- And then it says, and the Hawthorne Kiwanis Club. So that's what we're here today, and Don, you have anything?
We did contact a few business owners in the city, and maybe you all have heard of this little company called Belkin Components. And maybe you all also don't know, they got their start, Chet Pipkin got his start with that company in Hawthorne. So he was very gracious to come up with, I don't know exactly, he paid for 2 of them. And then a couple of other business owners, Mo, and then, you know, from our general foundation fund, we purchased the rest. So this is one of the best projects that we've done. And I've been in the club since 1988. And, you know, everything we do is for the community, for the students, the schools. And this was just a home run. We knocked it out of the park. And we're so happy to be here to present these AED units to the Wiseburn Unified School District this evening. That's all I have to say. Mr. Hume?
So it all.
Okay. Well,
Thank you so much.
so 4 of them with our blessings. And like Bo said, we hope you never have to use them. And we're sitting in the lobby waiting, and I notice you have one mounted to the wall out, just right outside the office there. I'm thinking, okay, well, you all know how to use them and where to place them, and with our blessings. So,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
all right.
So real quick, we would like to have a photo with you guys, if you don't, just
Absolutely.
presenting the AEDs for our memories and for our club also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't get out of here without taking a photo. Come on, Dick. Come on.
Are we gonna take it this way?
I'm thinking we do it where Neil
Where
is.
Neil
so
is,
maybe-
yeah.
Yeah.
Picture.
So he gets in the background.
There you go.
Look at this.
Ready? 1, 2. Gonna take one more. 1, 2. Perfect.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's our pleasure.
Good night, Neil.
Well, thank you. You bet.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
You're in your.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I remember,
Wait, actually.
You're not able to stand.
Great. Thank you so much.
and I'm kind of my daughter. But I didn't get up for that play. You got a accident. Well, not an accident, exactly. A problem. He passed away that evening, but had this thing, he had something. No, thank you very much. Thank you. But we go back all the time.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, nice to see you. Where this other piece of skyline is. Oh.
Like all those other presentations are within the.
Right, yes,
Okay, perfect.
yes. There's only 6 of them.
All right, so board member reports, Rebecca, we'll start with you.
Great. I had the opportunity to attend back to school night at 3 of our 4 schools, K-8. And just want to say it was wonderful to be back on campus for the school year. And to get the opportunity to see all of the different school sites. And to say hi to so many teachers and see all of the families, everybody excited to be back and anxious to learn. So, thank you to the folks at Aviation and Holly Glen and Weiser Middle School. Sorry, Del Air, I wasn't able to make it, same time as Aviation, so. And I have a kid at Aviation, so, but I'll make it over there this school year. So just wanted to say that, and just welcome back, folks, generally excited to get this school year underway, and really excited for a lot of the things that we have in store and the new Capturing Kids Heart program. Just excited to hear the teachers talk about how they're already implementing pieces of that, and the new math curriculum, hearing how looking at the different pieces of the parent components that are part of that. I've already seen it at home be very helpful, working through math problems with my own kids. So really excited about all of those new things that are happening in this district. And you know, also welcome back to all of those community organizations who are starting their fall sports season on our fields. I know that it's we're excited that folks are there and looking forward to having all of them around. And thanks to Dr. Silvers for being at all of the events all the time. I think it's pretty impressive, actually, the effort that he makes to be at all of the community events and making sure that even I heard you at the PTA meeting the other night at Wiseburn Middle School too. That was not part of back to school night. So thank you for that. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Rebecca. Michelle.
Just want to echo some of the sentiments of welcoming everybody back to school. Back to school is a really exciting time, and I know it's just filled with a lot of energy and positivity, and it's actually my favorite time of the school year as well, because we get that fresh start. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety that comes around it as far as, just starting up a school. And again, I just have to always kind of reiterate how proud I am to be a part of the school district, because I think when we see these times of, and sometimes there's little bumpy starts here and there, and there's different reasons to be upset. I've actually seen the community really kind of rally around, like, hey, this is a hardship, but this is how we're going to pull through. And I do really think that that is so indicative of who we are as Wiseburn residents and Wiseburn community and Wiseburn School District. So I'm really proud of us, and I just wanted to say that and say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Michelle. Neil? I'm not sure.
You're muted right now.
Is he on the phone? We can hear you now, Neil. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good to go. Well, great to be with everybody to the extent I can. Also got to attend 2 of the back to school nights. And unfortunately, due to conflict, obviously at the same time. So I got Del Air while you got ADH and Rebecca, so we're good. One thing I saw at the back to school nights that was so inspiring was not only the involvement of parents and the engagement and the attendance was so great, but I want to comment on the great job the teachers did, both in the unity and the consistent message from classroom to classroom. And in particular, I was inspired by the Capturing Kids' Hearts references that were made and the knowledge and the skill with which it was delivered, and as well as the scores from our report on how well that training was received. It was really good to see. Also wanted to comment on and compliment NAZ, because we got some significant investments with PBK for their architectural work. And I just want to comment and appreciate more than $60,000 in negotiated reductions to leverage the additional work we're doing with them, and it's a win-win for everybody. And then finally, one last thing I wanted to mention that was prior to our last meeting was it was good to be part of the budget committee discussions with Nelson and also the leadership of WFA and CSEA. It's good to be working with our union partners to understand where we are financially and to move forward together. So just want to thank everybody for that. A great new year wishes for everyone, and great to eat. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I also just want to take a moment to welcome everybody back. It's been a great start, as Neil said. I've had the opportunity to attend the Blake State of the Union. I've walked all the sites prior to school. I've attended 2 of the 4 back to school nights as well. Del Air and Aviation. I unfortunately missed Wiseburn Middle and Holly Glen. But also noticed the excitement and the feedback on the new program that we started with Capturing Kids' Hearts. And as you notice, as you know, we'll I think Dr. Ingram will have a presentation with regards to the program, and the survey results are very positive. So echoes the sentiment of Neil and the feedback that we're hearing from the teachers. So it's a great start. Very excited. And I also wanted to commend NAZ for the work that they're doing. I mean, all the schools are being touched. And I also want to share with the staff and the community. I appreciate their patience. Whenever you go under construction and there's disruption, whether it's to the school site or even around the surrounding community, bear with us. We're getting through it. But the sites are looking great, and the solar panels are erecting nicely and quickly. So it's great to see. And that's all I have.
I forgot one thing.
Yes.
I'm excited to, I know we have a whole slate, we've already talked about it earlier of different resolutions that we're gonna be considering and excited that we're about to start celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. One of the many that we celebrate. And so thanks again to Dr. Ingram for all the work and working with the families to make sure that since it's on the consent agenda, I wanted to say it now. To make sure that we had a slate that was, vetted with the community and that took into account information from them, both our school families and our parents and other folks, as we make those presentations.
Blake, I'll turn it to you. I think, math update and district leadership reports.
Yes, we are actually going to, not have a math update.
Okay.
today. I'm sorry, I should have.
No problem.
Roger's not here today.
But I will. But I will.
Who's gonna hear that? Who's gonna hear that?
I'm gonna move over to, the district leadership reports, if that's okay.
Yes.
I know Monique has a couple here, and then Jason, you're gonna do yours, you at the agenda item. Oh, I believe, right? Okay, perfect. Oh, Neil, go ahead, Neil, sorry.
I wanted to fill in the blank on the math update. I didn't mention this, but you reminded me. The other takeaway from the back to school nights was the universal, positive, enthusiastic support for Eureka Squared. And teachers across our district have shared their enthusiasm for this. They're really excited about helping us move forward with math. And I think that was a terrific investment we made from the early indications, and I'm pleased to report that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neil.
I mean, you could sit at your table there. No, I'm joking.
Oh.
Thank you. So good evening. I have a range of updates, some brief updates on a few different things this evening. One on enrollment, an update just on a couple of trainings that we offered to staff over the summer, right before school started. And then an announcement and also update on a social media safety assembly and set of parent education nights that we're offering this year that we offered last year. And then just some brief information on our Hispanic Heritage Latinx celebrations at our school sites. Okay, all right, we'll try. So here are enrollment numbers. Yes. All right, there we go. Our enrollment numbers. So we currently have 2,519 students enrolled. This is actually an updated slide from what was posted. So we have a significant higher number of students who were enrolled since last week. And so that's thanks to Alicia Galindo in our enrollment office and our teams at our sites who are enrolling students and trying to make sure that our records are up to date. The 2519 number is a little bit higher than where we were last year. Last year we were at 2516, so a bit of an improvement. And then as you can see, our numbers are pretty close to where we want to be in terms of filling our seats in our classrooms.
Can I say something to that? I just want to highlight one thing. If you look at that 2519, it's always good to be at least flat or a little bit, elevated year to year. I do want to note there are some areas. Am I stealing were you going to talk more about this slide or can I?
Go for it.
You're done with the slide? Okay. There are certain areas that we're looking at because this actually includes an increase of one class. So just not, or actually a class and a half. We filled a half of a class of TK at Holly Glen, and then we filled a TK class at Del Air. So we do have some concerns in the later grades. Hoping obviously we'll hold steady again. But there are some concerns in the middle school, handful of kids, 12 to 18 kids maybe that were low. I believe it was 6th grade or maybe 8th grade rolls off. Right, 8th grade rolls off with a low number. And then also looking at our kinder, And we think we're in this sort of weird spot in kindergarten, just because you have this new entry level with TK, so we're still trying to figure it all out. So I did want to share that, you know, although we're 3 students higher than last year, we opened up additional classes and we need to monitor some of those, grade levels or entry points that might seem a little lower.
Yeah, and it does seem like we're over enrolled in a couple of the middle grades, right? So I'm curious about that, like how we fit those additional students and capacity wise in the classrooms that we have.
Like when we're up by 1 or 2 in classroom.
Are we over? I'm sorry, I don't see the itemized.
Yeah, so down under total enrolled, they're looking at the number, like second grade, we have 244
Oh, I see,
instead
yeah,
of 240.
got it,
Yeah.
sorry.
The teachers have 1 or 2 over.
Right, over what we'd want, but they average out so that we're still like meeting the numbers that we want to be at.
If you recall, TK to 3, we're in this class size reduction, the CSR criteria, it's a 24 to 1, 24.5 to 1 ratio that we have to maintain. And it's legal, we have to maintain that.
We, I think what concerns me about this enrollment, and it's just because of our surrounding districts, and not only our surrounding districts, really the state of California, is are we seeing a slight dip in TK and K compared to last year? Because I see the capacity, but I'm not sure if that's a fair comparison, with regards to last year. Are we seeing and I think that's the point you were making, Lynn. Are we, obviously it sounds like we're monitoring it, but are we seeing a dip, a slight dip?
We're about the same. I can get those numbers, those exact numbers to you, but for kindergarten, we're about the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do note, sorry, I'm gonna, sorry, keep stopping you, do note that next year TK does go down to 20 to 1. So it'll be a different ratio, well, potentially. Yeah, we'll have the room for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so switching gears, with Capturing Kids' Hearts, as I mentioned, we did offer a training this August for teachers. Capturing Kids' Hearts provides a 2-day training, and in order to honor teachers' contractual schedule, one of those days was required. And so we had 113 certificated staff members attend the optional day for this training. And then 29 more attended for the second day. So we had those 113 plus about 30 more to make 142 who attended the training. We were also able to offer an optional training for classified staff as well. And that training was specific to their roles in our school. So the half-day training, and 22 classified staff members attended that optional day. With the training, our site administrators attended those trainings as well, but there's ongoing training for them. So all of our site administrators, our principals, they're part of a cohort group that meets once a month with our specified Capturing Kids' Hearts representative to just kind of have that continued training and support to share what's going on our sites and kind of get problem solve and get advice for ongoing support. What's not up there is that there's an additional training for our core team members. So our core team members are going to help be our teacher leaders in terms of Capturing Kids' Hearts. And so they will also attend an additional day of training in October to help support in their grade level meetings and with their colleagues. So with that, training is good because we're hearing great things from our teachers who participated in the training. So 60 people who participated that day 1 of training. Loved it according to our numbers and according to this survey. So on a scale where 5 is the highest, we're seeing that we almost hit 5 in all of the categories in terms of the training being relevant and useful, the facilitator clearly communicating concepts, the training being engaging and interactive, and looking forward to continue training in the future. All right, any questions about Capturing Kids' Hearts training?
Was there an option for them to also submit comments or something about that?
Yes, there was an option for them to submit comments. And some of the comments we received, I have a couple of them. This was the best PD I've been a part of in my 11 years here. CKH was the reset I needed before the start of the school year. And there were a couple of comments about the facilitators themselves. Kevin was so dynamic and engaging. This is one of the best professional development experiences I've ever had. Jeff was at the middle school, was awesome. He had us engaged the entire day and made the tools and teaching relevant. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious if like the people who had scored, not quite as high had said anything, but it sounds like, yeah. This is great.
In terms of constructive, I think some people were looking forward to what's next. So there was a lot of like the community building pieces, a lot of, the first day, there were a lot of opportunities to exemplify what the practices look like. And so the comments were more so about, okay, so what's the curriculum? Or like, when do we get to the actual curriculum, right? But the practices are a part of that, right? And so I think part of the work as we continue is implementing the practices, right? And really seeing and reviewing how those practices are related to student social emotional learning, and the dynamic in the classroom is related to behavior in our school culture.
Thank you.
All right. Also in August, we offered a certification for classified and certificated staff on nonviolent crisis intervention in CI. So this comes from the request of our teachers, just to have tools and to be better prepared for students when they're escalated. So when students are becoming upset, or they leave the classroom, or there's a behavior challenge that's more extreme than kind of what we're used to seeing or what we're used to addressing. Teachers wanted the tools to be able to address that themselves. And so in the past, we've sent some of our psych services staff members to these trainings through SELPA, but because it was an interest of so many people, we developed a team of our own who attended a training to become certified trainers. So Weisburn has 6 certified trainers. We'll have a 7th pretty soon. And those 6 trainers facilitated this training for 49 of our classified and certificated staff members who are interested in learning more and gaining these tools. They'll be certified for 2 years. And the skills that they learned are related to de-escalation. So like I mentioned, when a student is becoming upset, kind of recognizing when that's happening, knowing what to do in that moment to help them de-escalate or calm down, or if they continue to escalate or they're in an extreme kind of escalated state, what to do kind of with their verbally, like verbal tools, nonverbal tools, and in an extreme case and last resort, how to intervene physically with that student.
May I ask, the dispersion of these 49 staff members amongst our schools? Is it even? Is it more than one? And then my secondary follow-up question to that would be, how have they been identified to the rest of the staff as point of contact people to call upon in case of a situation?
Sure. The groups were about 20 each. So we had like 15 to just under 30 across our groups. We had an elementary group, so TK to 5. We had a middle school group, and then we had a classified group. So 3 different groups. Like I said, about 20 each. Some were a little bit more than that. We actually haven't yet. That's a good question. We haven't identified them as kind of go-to people, but we're working on a system, a way to identify those people where we're not necessarily overburdening teachers who might be in their classrooms, right? But among those people, like I mentioned, our classified staff who might be out on the playground, counselors, administrators who would be able to more readily respond in an urgent situation.
I guess a follow-up to Michelle's question is, I heard the grade level dispersion, but I'm curious about school site. Were there at least a few people from each school site?
Yes. Yeah, there are people from each school site.
Okay. And then I guess that other question that I had was whether administrators were part of that group.
Yes.
Okay.
Counselors, definitely. Our trainers include counselors, an administrator, our behavior specialist. And then, yes, some of our administrators are trained. We're looking forward to having another training in November. And then for a couple of our key people, like counselors and a couple of administrators who weren't trained, we'll have a training for them as well.
I assume all of our RBTs are trained.
Well, they came on a little bit later, so we'll make
Okay.
sure that.
Their certification, that's what I'm assuming, that this is part of their, their certification to be registered behavior therapists.
So we do want to give some special attention to our psych services team because they're more likely to come in contact or like be involved in situations where students are more escalated. And so we do have a plan to make sure that we're meeting with everyone who's trained kind of often, or not meeting, but at least sending out reminders or inviting them to meetings, but to especially have that time for our psych services team.
Thank you.
All right, shifting gears again, we have our social media safety presentations coming up. So last year, for 5th through 8th graders, the Organization of Social Media Safety sent someone to present to our students. So our middle school students received a presentation as well as our 5th grade students, and we got really great feedback from that. The facilitator also presented to parents on the same topic, similar topics, a few added components in there. And we also got really great feedback from parents. So if you look to the right in the blue area, our students had little clickers during the assemblies to answer questions and provide the facilitator with feedback. So we have a lot of data on kind of what our students are doing online and what their experiences on social media look like. But just here's one that's highlighted that 59 to 63% of our students in 5th to 8th grade are spending 3 to 8 hours on social media every day. And within our different assembly groups, the range for students who spend 11 or more hours on social media was 5 to 15%. When the facilitator asked how they managed to spend 11 or more hours on social media, they all said it was time that they're supposed to be sleeping, that they're up on their phones or on their devices on social media.
I wish I
So-
was surprised.
Yeah. So definitely social media and spending time on it is something that's prevalent in our community. We see it among our students in their conversations, and sometimes that trickles into behavior. So it was really great that they were able to learn about social media practices and safe social media practices. And some of them actually went home and asked their parents if they would attend the parent component. So really meaningful things there. We had 42 parents or caregivers attend the workshop last year. Of the 11 people who provided us with feedback, we did hear really great things that overall they felt like the information was relevant, they learned something. For the most part, their questions were answered and they were extremely satisfied. And what most of the comments, what parents shared in most of the comments was that everyone should have to attend this and we should offer it more often and definitely offer it again in the fall. And so here we are next week. Our students, again, 5th through 8th grade, will participate in assemblies. The 7th and 8th graders who participated last year will receive a part 2, so they'll get new information. Our 6th graders will receive a middle school part 1 version, and our 5th graders will receive their elementary version. For parents, we'll have an in-person session on day 1. That'll be part 1, so kind of the foundational components. And the second session that's offered is a part 2. So anyone who participated last year or who participates in the Tuesday presentation can join us on a Zoom for additional information.
Neil has his hand up
Oh,
online.
hi, Neil. Hey.
Thank you, Monique. This is very interesting. I'm curious about those stats on the 3 to 8 hours of social media daily. If we know how much of that is happening during school hours, and to what extent the students and or the parents, are continuing conversations about cell use on campus, or social media use on campus, have their opinions about that were less available. If that's part of our conversation, curious to get data.
Sure. So I don't think there was a question specifically about them being on their phones during school. the facilitator just kind of asked the kids to respond verbally, and that's when they all shouted out that they're on social media at night. They're supposed to be asleep. But it's certainly a question we can add, looking forward to next week. And then we have received feedback or comments from parents who are supportive of us kind of minimizing and making sure we're keeping track of students and their phones and making sure they're not using their phones on campus. And even some families who are in support of kids not having phones at all.
I'm curious about the, like, social media, what the definition of that is, and did they provide that, like, is it just things like Facebook and Snapchat and that, or does it include like YouTube and other things that you're doing online?
The definition extended to YouTube, so things like Instagram, Snapchat, but also extended to like Facebook and YouTube. Okay, and a lot of interest for next week already. We have 64 people signed up for the Thursday presentation, and over 30 people signed up for Tuesday's presentation. Okay, and lastly, as Rebecca mentioned, we are about to enter Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, so we're very excited about that. We're going to be celebrating at our school sites. Some similarities to last year and also some things that are new. We are partnering with Dr. Nushin Bolizadeh, who is supporting some of our DEI efforts. And so last year, the counselors put together resources for teachers and students and developed the activities. This year, we have an opportunity through this partnership for our counselors to be trained in some of these areas, so that they're able to provide, I think, even a stronger support to teachers and to students. And so our counselors will receive a series of trainings throughout the year. They had their first one right before school started and were able to provide a training to teachers and information to teachers about the upcoming celebration for Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, including kind of going over the student lesson that the teachers will implement. And then they're also continuing with the school-wide activities. And so in addition to education within the student lesson, an activity that they'll be doing is related to the Capturing Kids Hearts monthly theme. The Capturing Kids Hearts has a character development theme that they focus on every month. This month, it's empathy. And so the Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month activity that they'll be doing in the classroom is related to an affirmation. So they'll have, the younger kids will have like an affirmation card already printed for them that they can color that has a positive statement on it in English, and on the back it's in Spanish. Older kids will be able to write their own and they'll have examples. And then the teachers will collect those affirmation cards and just redistribute them to different students. And so students will essentially give an affirmation in English and Spanish and receive one as well. And so that's part of the conversation that will happen in the classrooms with this lesson. Next steps, next month we'll be celebrating Bullying Prevention Month and Red Ribbon Week. And then Rebecca, as you started to mention, and with the board, we'll also talk more about how we can make sure that we are acknowledging, we're being inclusive of everyone in our acknowledgements, what that looks like, how we got to where we are, and where we can go for the future.
And I think at the last board, if we could take a look at, to the point that you're making, you want to make sure that we don't exclude anybody, that we're also checking LA County, state of California, and making sure that it's in compliance, that we're not in compliance, but that we're recognizing those resolutions that the county and the state are recognizing.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ingrid.
Thank you.
All right. So a couple things. I want to talk a little bit about the welcome back. First, thank you for joining me for the welcome back, and had an opportunity to hear from Travis Allen. I think you know, for those who were there, I think some of us have even seen him in other locations as well. It's a really interesting message. know, I don't think he got enough to his youth where, I mean, he did talk about it a little bit, but you know, his story about sort of advocacy and kind of, you know, young activism in some ways was pretty inspiring, and happy that he was able to join us there. And also excited about the programs that he's gonna bring to our GATE students this year, and looking to expand that out a little bit. Even include some service opportunities for our middle school students as part of the SLED program, or it's basically a community improvement program, ways to improve the community. Also want to share, you know, accolades related to the back to school nights. Did have an opportunity to attend all of them this year. It's one of, you know, it's a really, really wonderful day, and I'm gonna, a wonderful evening. Just want to say the teachers' presentations are great, but more just the interaction with the families, just being able to see, you know, our teachers interact with our families, you know, just really is warm and welcoming, and I think our families leave with smiles on their faces, and that's really a tribute to those people in the classrooms that are meeting them and seeing them. So just really my hats off to our teachers, you know, principals who are welcoming our parents at the gates, and of course welcoming them in the classrooms. Want to talk a little bit about threats and some of the, you know, communication. I know that there have been, there was a threat, a non-credible threat to the middle school on Sunday, I guess sometime midday on Sunday. And, you know, we're always, I just want to share with the board and for those in the public who I haven't talked to already, I've talked to quite a few people, but for those that I haven't, it's a really tricky balance of sending a message out to families en masse when you're dealing with something like that, especially once it's deemed a non-credible threat, you know, by those people who are sort of, you know, responsible and whose profession it is to tell us whether a threat is credible or not. And what I mean by that is we did send a message out in this case, and you know, looking back, I think it was the right decision to send a message out. I also why it's so difficult to decide to send that message out is because the flip side of sending a message out is 50 students get pulled out of class within 30 minutes. And so we're kind of trying to deal with that as we're going through the decision making. We did see a pretty mass exodus from classes that day, from school that day at the middle school. So it's really a balance for us, and I just wanted to share that that's what's going through our mind. We're trying to make decisions to massively notify students or families, sorry, on that when there's a threat or a non-credible threat. Of course, the flip side of that is if it were credible, obviously we're not opening school. So wanted to share that. Wanted to also talk about construction, just the level of patience and grace that our families have had, that our teachers and staff have had when you have sort of massive construction projects in the area that we need, which is parking lots and entries and all of that. Who would have planned such a thing? Who would have planned such a thing? But, you know, I know we were delayed. It wasn't our doing, and you know, sometimes you get so far into a project. I mean, we have to do it, and here we are trying to manage some of that. I know some teachers are walking further than they're used to get from the middle school campus to the aviation campus, and really, there's I wish there were solutions to those things, and there's just not. I mean, it's just kind of the state of affairs for a few weeks. But we're close, you know, these things are going up quickly, especially the carports. I think those are the things that are slowing down, that are bogging us down a little bit, are those solar carports. They go up quickly, and hopefully we can get the fencing out and around. Really happy to see the field. If you haven't had an opportunity to go back and take a look, you know, we have some green fake grass or turf back there. It's looking great. I believe it's glued, and I believe we will also start seeing some of the logos, the center field logo, as well as some of the other logos on the field tomorrow, if not early next week, I think is what we're targeting.
I'm hearing field trip.
A field trip, yeah, we'll stop the meeting when time to walk out. Want to thank Monique for the enrollment update. I did share my perspective on the TK, kind of these areas that we're going to look at. Also, my hats off to Alicia Galindo, who's really been front and center. Eileen Malott, who sits out in the front, who's made lots of phone calls, really has been a super help as we try to manage our enrollment. Nelson shared, declining enrollment really is a concern, and the fact that we're holding steady is a good thing, and it's why, but when you're dealing with a 40% permit population, high 30% permit population, it's really another tricky balance, it's a tricky balance of, letting enough students in to be able to fill residence spots, but and not wanting to under enroll, because obviously under enroll has significant financial impact to the district as well. So those things are just things that go into these conversations. But thank you to Monique and to the team for that. We're also seeing the kickoff of AYSO, and what I'm assuming is fall ball for Little League and probably the Wiseburn girls softball program. And we are gonna have a meeting here soon, recreation meeting, so we'll reach out. I think Rebecca and Nelson are part of that. I'll reach out to you about that meeting. We do wanna talk a little bit about use of those fields, particularly as it relates to the number of teams, the number of, when you have a softball program hitting softballs into the outfield where soccer kids are running around. Obviously, some bad can come of that, and so we wanna make sure that we're having those conversations. Clean up conversations and all of that. So we'll have that meeting here soon in the next couple of weeks. I'll let you know. We'll try and get a date that's works for you all. Had a chance to attend on Friday of last week, the El Camino College. I went with Nisha. We got to attend the El Camino College President's Breakfast, something that the president of El Camino does every year, invites school districts, local school districts, South Bay school districts to just hear some of the programming and so forth. And one of the areas that's intriguing to me is the idea of maybe middle school students, probably eighth graders, being able to dual enroll in some programs earlier than maybe high school. It's not happening in mass yet, but I do think that there are a couple of districts that I've heard are really exploring that as an option. Would like to take a look at that as a possibility, just to provide some enrichment opportunities for our eighth graders. Maybe it's a language enrichment, maybe it's a math enrichment, or something like that. So definitely gonna start that conversation. I probably should talk to Steve. I should probably actually start talking to Steve about this. Maybe you can provide some insight. But anyway, wanna take a look at that as well. Also want to thank Debbie Lube and Patty Jaffe. It has been a great week at Dana Middle School and Wiseburn Middle School this week, and it has been a very challenging week at Wiseburn Middle School this week, just for certain issues, and just Patty and Debbie there, and it's Keanu's first week of not being here. So, they definitely started amidst a bit of a challenge and just handled it with grace and care and all of that. So just want my hats off to them. Definitely feel real comfortable that we have, two veteran administrators that are there helping support kind of the everything that's going on there.
I did hear feedback from the PTA meeting that they thought that Debbie's presentation was really good,
Oh, nice.
so.
Good.
I'll pass that on to her.
Awesome. I will pass that on. And then last, I just want to say this is Jason's last meeting with us, and I just want to thank you, Jason, for 2 years or two, whatever it was, close to 2 years. Best of luck and best of wish. Thank you for everything. Yeah. 10 more things. Just kidding.
Wendy, any public comments on agenda items? All right, moving on. Consent items, do I have a motion for 9.1?
So moved.
Rebecca,
Second.
thank you, Michelle. Any comments or questions?
I have a question actually for 9:18. It's the
9:18.
Lexia for learning. I'm assuming that is for license, are they individual licenses?
It's individual license.
And my question really is just, I don't need anything for details, but I just want to understand the way the licenses are managed, and what is the feedback of if they're being utilized?
Yeah, so we do have a limited number.
Sorry.
Hey, Tony, when we do this new room setup, there's gonna have to be microphones. Yeah, some kind of setup.
There you go.
All right, yeah, so this is a renewal, so we've had this for 3 years. It's a new re-up of the 3-year renewal. So we have a specific number of licenses. Currently, it's something I'll have my program specialist manage, but it's gone through me in the past. So it's all based on students that do have goals in the areas of foundational reading. And so teachers have to submit to me, and then we submit them into their classes. And then they're able to track the progress, so we're able to see. So it is something I monitor closely, because in the past, it was something that was available to many students, for all the districts, actually, not just special education. So we just want to make sure that we're actually putting our money into something that we're getting. And so it is a supplemental program, and something that students that do have it have access through Clever, and it's something they can have throughout the summer and to maintain skills.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Neil, any comments or questions from your end? Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic, thank you. 10.1, we already took care of.
That's correct. We're
Okay,
pulling that
want to
up.
make sure. All right, item 10.2, approve MOU between Wiseburn Unified School District and CSCA and its Wiseburn Chapter 486. Do I have a motion? Well, thank you, Rebecca. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. All right, that leads us to facilities. Let's see here. Is there any reason we can't take 11.1 through 11.7?
With questions, maybe. There may be some questions, but yeah.
Any,
No.
okay, do I have a motion for 11.1 through 7?
I'll move 11.1 through 7.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. And any comments or questions on any of these items?
Thanks to Nisha, to Blake, and to Noemi for answering my questions prior to Navneet on here today. So thank you very much.
Okay. I don't have any comments, questions, no? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And fiscal, we're gonna have a presentation, but do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Thank you, Michelle.
Second.
Rebecca, thank you, and we'll hold off on vote until after the presentation.
Good
Best
evening.
for last, right?
Good evening, board members. Perfect. Okay, good evening, board members. I bring to you today the unaudited actuals report. Just to give you a background on what that means. I presented June 28th, I brought to you what was called the estimated actuals, where we thought we were gonna land at that point in time. And I also brought to you the budget adoption at that point. So today is where we actually landed after closing. So we went through all the books, we followed up on all the invoices, made sure everything got in, and and I think I just want to give kudos to the team. I mean, I was a bit pushy this year, calling and making sure we got all the contracts out there that we needed and make sure we had all those invoices in, and everybody really came together and did a great job to get everything in and had a really successful, really trouble-free closing. As I see it. So the purpose of today, we do have to report this, I'll report the cycle. I'll look at estimated actuals versus unaudited actuals, that comparison. And of course, we'll look at the district reserves, and then we'll look at the other funds and then talk about next steps and considerations. There we go. So as you see here, on or before September 15th, we do need to approve, the board needs to approve the unaudited actuals report. And again, this will be something that I upload to SACS like many of the other ones, and it'll become something that will be available on the public website as well. So let's get to the comparison. What you're seeing here is unrestricted general funds. So I always talk about this is really the critical piece that we're always looking at. Restricted has more statutory limitations and requirements that we have to follow. But if you're looking at the true health of a district, you would go to the unrestricted area. So we did see more revenues than expected. If you look at the rationale on the right, that kind of takes you down the story, and that's what I'll be talking to. We had an increase in revenues from where we thought we were going to land. We had about 78,000 in increased lottery revenues. You see that 78,000 there. We had an increase in the fair market value. This is something kind of new. We're doing it about, I want to say it's the second or third year. But up to this point, we've always had to show a negative number, and that's been something we've had to explain. This is really more of an accounting thing that we have to do. Starting next year, it's not. I won't say it's always real. What they do is they take a snapshot of where our money is and where those investments land, and it landed on the positive as of June 30th of that date. But that did, for the purposes of this report, gave us 201,000 in total more revenues. If you go down to the expenditures, you'll see that $732. I've talked to many people. They've never seen our certificated salaries come that close, or many certificated salaries come that close. That was very good. But as you go down, you'll go to the services, and that's where our contracts land. So we saw about 369,000 in decrease expenses. And again, many reasons. I put POs, and we have purchase orders. When we board approve different items, we'll put a purchase order in, and we're going to say we're going to spend $100,000. Well, we landed less in many ways. And so, for example, like if we didn't use all the legal contract and we had 200,000, we landed less. So we had significant savings in our expenses for the purchase orders or the contracts and services. And if you go on down to the bottom, and that's where we see the 140,000, that was preschool. Our transfer out, I've talked about that since I've started. We did do a transfer out at estimated actuals. I was showing about 160 something. So we had about 20,000 in savings there. We came in less than what we expected. Also that transfer out, you'll see we took about 210,000 and put it in deferred maintenance. If you see that DM, you go to the next line, you'll see that contribution. So our contribution turned out less, which is a good thing. So if you see that 290,000, that means it's positive. So that's because our decreased expenditures that we estimated were less in special ed. And really that has to do with our contracts again. And again, I've always touted, we're very, very conservative when we build our budgets. We're very careful. And really, this is a sign of that conservative approach. As you go on down, you'll see the reduced expenses. You see REU 3%. And again, that went down a little bit because we had reduced expenses. But overall, the bottom line right there is what we had left over. We did end up about $1 million extra of increase because of increased revenue and also decreased expenses. And this is unrestricted.
Are those one-time funds? Are there any one-time funds that are part of that unrestricted bucket of?
I would always say yes, but we want to treat leftover money as one time. So at this point, it's not really one time, I would say, because they came from, if it was from contracts we thought we were going to have, it just means those contracts came in, we didn't spend as much as we thought.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful saying it's one time. Could be ongoing.
I guess I'm more asking about the additional revenue.
Yeah.
Whether any of that was from additional one-time funds that came in.
No, I mean, the increased lottery was the additional revenue in this case.
Okay.
And then the fair market value is something that's that snapshot at the end of the year. So if it happens again yet next year, that could be ongoing.
Well, and the issue with the fair market value, the positive fair market is that next year it could be negative, and you're just showing a negative on paper instead of a positive. So it's kind of more of a number on paper than it is something that you're actually, which is good. It's only 109, not only, but in the scheme of the budget, it's 109. So something that we can withstand if it goes the other way.
Yeah, last year at this time, I think we were at about 400,000 negative.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. And then I'm going to go on to the reserves. So where we landed with the reserves, what I showed.
Neil had a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, thank you very much. Two things. One, I realize this has been our tradition, and I'm not sure I fully understand why we don't show restricted, because we're leaving out about $6 or $7 million of our budget. So that I'm curious about, and moving forward, I'd like to see that. So it's really more best for Blake, Jason, and Jason again, wishing you well. The second is, have we learned anything through this process about relative to the 24-25 budget? Because we were about $600K looking, overspending, if you will. I wonder if we've learned anything through this process that will have adjusted the projected. I realize I'm talking about next year's budget, but I'm wondering if that's taught us anything and if we have any projections or updates relative to this year.
The one thing I would advise right now is, and what I've already started with our team, is going through all those purchase orders and see where they all landed and what was left on them. And just seeing, you know, if there's any technical things we can do to really tighten that up some more. So I think that's the biggest learning at this point. Again, remember, BEST is really, we're going into our 3rd year of implementation and just how to, you know, develop the purchase orders and technically making sure we're doing it right and monitoring them. So I think that's probably one piece we wanted to make sure that we're good on. But overall, you know, continuing to monitor, you know, the expenses. We were very conservative around the special ed piece. So I think, and it's something that a lot of districts are dealing with as well. So, you know, you don't want to go the wrong way and have 20, you know, new students that are causing more expenses show up either. So, again, those are 2 pieces that I would focus on.
So can I,
$10 to the good is obviously a great result, so thank you.
better than to the bad. So, hey, Neil, I wanted to just share, so the $1 million, and I think this is sort of, I'm gonna highlight what Jason said. I'm gonna, I think, maybe answer in part what Rebecca shared. The $1 million that falls to the bottom is not ongoing dollars. So that's a one-time sort of, almost like a correction. I mean, we're basically saying that we didn't spend those encumbered funds. You know, we're basically correcting encumbered funds that are just sitting on a PO that aren't being used, so they fall to the bottom at the end. But I think to Neil's point is, it's taking a look now at our POs, those numbers, because we are still showing 660, something like that, $1,000 deficit, in current year. And so we're now gonna take a look, as Jason leaves and we have a chance to take a look at this budget, and then looking into the current year budget, or, this report in the current year budget is taking a look at those PO reports, make sure that we didn't over encumber funds. Or start to take a look at how we're encumbering funds, and maybe it'll be another year before we really have an idea on some of these contracts, but taking a look a little bit more diligently, maybe, or not more diligent, they do a great job, but just being diligent and looking at these POs and making sure that we're making the best guess possible.
So with the reserve, we're at 14% based on unaudited actuals at this point. What I presented at budget adoption was about 10%. And again, if you add Fund 20 in this, we're looking at 17% of reserve. So that's a, you know, really healthy reserve at this point for 23-24 unaudited actuals.
So I'm curious about that and whether we need it to be that high. Are there other things that we could be doing with those additional reserves above the 10%?
I will.
I want it high,
Okay.
it's a small, we're a small
I'll give
district.
you my 2 cents. I think I would probably get to 25% as a small district. And what's gonna be happening in year 3 from here, and I've talked about that. Remember, we're still utilizing some of our one-time dollars to offset some benefits costs. And so it is really important that we are doing this now, building this reserve up for year 3 out, because we just, you know.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, because when we,
Jason, how long will a 14% reserve last us if we were in an emergency situation?
I would have to, yeah, I'm trying to think, because we have 3%, and I wanna say it's like 3 months.
It's
Yeah,
not a matter of months.
yeah, it's months.
Yeah, I was saying, not very long.
Yeah, it's 3% is, yeah, it's not a
the
full
point
year.
that We're a small district, so.
Yeah, not a full year.
it's a matter of months.
Good point, yeah.
And
So I also wanna share that when we're looking at, you know, looking at our reserve and looking at, sort of what's saying, we are sort of, when you're deficit spending, we're draining some of that reserve every year. And so we still are in this deficit model. But going back, and I just wanna remind the board that the reason the deficit is happening in the current year is because we did, have an agreement with our bargaining partners at the end of last year, when we settled last year at a 4%, that was at the time a COLA was at 3.76%. And so we were, you know, in a position, obviously, we made an agreement, so we were kind of having to come up with a 3% delta, 3% gap in what we had agreed to, and we weren't, it was just unexpected. It wasn't what anybody was expecting, and then we had it, so we're trying to recover that. And so because of that, Jason had mentioned that we're spending some dollars out of one-time monies to be able to cover some of that cost. about 400K, I believe, from our arts, music, instructional materials grant. So we're gonna have to, so on top of all of this, we're gonna have to cover another 400K in a few years. That will either get through COLA increases or other dollars, you know, and so there's still some issues in the horizon that we need to address.
Going to the one-time funds, so again, child nutrition is doing very well. We're at 1 million. We'll probably be looking at putting together a spending plan because we have a limit on the reserve we can have for that. But that'll be next steps for that. Deferred maintenance, I did talk to Dr. Goldman, I want to say a budget committee, and looking at the sub funds and that is definitely some next steps that I will pass on to the next CBO, just really looking at how we can really tie the, you know, Fund 14 deferred maintenance into the deferred maintenance plan. And we're really being strategic over the life of our facilities moving forward. Fund 17, you'll see we're at 755. And that's what goes into the reserve. And you have the Fund 20, we're at 1 million. And of course, the GO bond at 19, developer fees were at 790, and then state the OPSC 35 about 1.2. And of course, the negative on the enterprise is that liability we have to show for benefits through our enterprise program that, and again, it's for Fund 63, which is the preschool.
Just have a quick question. Noemi always says we don't have any money in the bond account, but I see a lot of money. I'm just curious.
Back to encumbered. Remember, I was saying it was encumbered.
Always says there's no money, and I don't understand.
And remember, this is as unaudited actuals as of June 30th. Yeah, next steps consideration. So again, the big one is going to be completing the year-end audit. Report will come out in December. We'll have the first interim report in December. And then of course, I keep saying it, we always have to focus on the ADA. I think with the implementation of Power School AIS, the Attendance Intervention Suite, you know, we're going to hopefully see some returns on that. And then of course, TK enrollment, those are other revenues we haven't really realized yet until we have full TK classes. Remember, each TK student gets the ADA plus about $3,000 on the TK add-on for each of those students. So that's more. And then of course, monitoring the spending. This is always a busy time of year because students are enrolling and you're trying to figure out the needs. And so that will be a big part of First Center. And finally, I just definitely want to thank our team, Anna Marina Hidbegi, our new buyer, and then of course, Adesalia Fernandez, our account technician, David Subaki, our payroll technician, and Jeanette Victoria, your accounts payable clerk, and then Silka Takun, payroll, human resources, and child nutrition support. And I also just want to take the time, you know, to thank the board for everything. I really appreciate it. It's been a great experience. I tell people I've learned more in I think 2 years I've learned in the last 10. and it's been a great experience. I can't say enough. Just the fact that you've been able to give me the opportunity to grow, to build my capacity as a leader, and also just the knowledge. And so I really thank you for everything you guys have done for me. I also want to say thank you to Wendy and everything. She has saved me many a times, and also the cabinet and Dr. Dougal and all the rest of the team. So thank you, everyone. And I really appreciate my time and everything that I've been able to gain, and hopefully been able to provide you at Weisberg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Silks.
Thank you, Jason. You say the best for last.
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. Okay, we're at upcoming dates and events. Blake. Any other dates to share, or Wendy?
Oh, we didn't vote on
Yeah,
it.
oh, we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Wendy. for
Wendy
keeping us-
saving us
Thank
again.
you. Thank you for keeping us in track. Upcoming dates.
Sure. No, so I just want to point out that we do have a couple of date changes coming up.
Okay.
We have the regularly scheduled meeting on the 24th is a move up. Those 2 days prior, I think it's a Tuesday. Yeah, it is a Tuesday. From our originally scheduled meeting on the 26th. And this just has to do a quorum. I mean, we're just trying to make sure that we can make quorum and get some of the business done. So there we are. And then that's the only change, right, Wendy? That was. Right, but not in the 25th. So Tuesday, the 24th is the meeting, regular time, 6 o'clock, right here. Come on, come on.
Okay.
And that's all I have. No.
Blake, I think
that concludes our board meeting. We have a motion, and a second to adjourn at 7:19 PM.
We do have closed session, another
We
closed
do have a
session.
closed
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're so happy.
During the closed session.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.